Nisha, on to you.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to all the dignitaries present over here, our respected teachers, our training and placement officers, and our students. Now, I would like to introduce myself. This is Nisha Rao, Vice President of Marketing Department from Placement Assistant Team of Vedanta College. Well, from yesterday's sessions, you guys will get to know how communication is important and how can we communicate effectively, and done some many exercises for the public speaking. Now, moving forward towards our today's last powerful session, which will help you in corporate work as working as well as leader and team player. Leadership and teamwork plays a very important role in everywhere. So, without wasting time, we will start our session. So, here with an great excitement, I would like to welcome our today's speaker, Mr. Devesh Airen, sir. He has provided guidance to 2000 plus CA students in relation to exam preparation and articleship stint at Vision CA. He has been felicitated by President ICAI as a best presenter, management and communication skills. He has worked with best companies in the industry such as TCS, Noda Developers Private Limited, Reliance Powers Limited. So by this, I would like to hand over the platform to Mr. Devesh, sir. Sir, it's up to you.
Thank you, Nisha. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I would say good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for joining in today. Please, can you confirm that am I audible, guys, in the chat box? If it's good to go, Nisha, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Perfect. Thank you, Vedanta. Thank you, Principal Ma'am. Thank you, Vedanta community for organizing this events. And I would say it's very important that you attend all these sessions that were organized by this wonderful team, because each topic that was taken up by them was very crucial when you enter into the corporate world. Be it kind of developing your LinkedIn account, be it kind of being into GD group discussions, or preparing yourself to be a better person. This actually helps you a lot, in your corporate work. So I'm sure that you all of you must have attended all these sessions that were organized, and today we stand at the last day of this wonderful drive, wherein we are going to discuss about the leadership, where we are going to talk about team, which is utmost important when you if you talk about your life or if you talk about your corporate life. So leadership, I would say, it's very important because it shapes up your life. Okay. When you talk about leadership, it has to not be just in the corporate world, and has to be as a person. As a person, you should always act as a leader. As a person, you should have a mindset of a leader. As a person, you should know what leaders do, and that's how your approach towards life should be. So I always feel that leadership is kind of an influence of the personal power, not the positional power. There would not be a single day where a person would come to you and say, okay, now you are a leader and you have to act like it. Okay. And most importantly, positioning you as a leader rather than accepted by public as a leader, these are altogether two different ball games. So it's not just important that someone should position you as a leader and then you should act in your life as a leader. Leadership, I would say, it's a continuous process. It's your mindset. So leaders are not meant by the position that is given. Leadership is meant by the attitude. Leadership is meant by the approach that you follow in life. So let us understand and deep dive more into what leadership is, what impacts does it have in our career, what impact does it have in our day-to-day life, and what are things that we can do, to be a good leaders in the future. Because just being positioned as a leader is not enough. You should be actually accepted by the people, by the community as a leader. We have seen a lot of political instances wherein you could really see that Narendra Modi is being welcomed so open-heartedly by the public, and people choose him to be as a leader. And that's how he has gained support and all throughout the community by every people out there. So it's very important that you should have those kind of approaches in your life. And trust me, this is the right point wherein we can understand this topic in a deep. We should deep dive in this topic and understand into the nitty-gritties and about the approaches that we should definitely have, so that at least we can turn out to be a good leaders in the company. Because leader, this is the aspect that we discussed about your normal life. But let's talk about the corporate life as well, where you'll be working out with 1,000 people. will be having a different mindsets, will be having a different goals for which they are coming and sitting into the company. Some people might have a goal to be a CXO in the company. Some people might have a goal to buy a Ferrari in next 10 years. Some people might have a goal to excel in academic and about their skills. So you'll be working out with different sets of people. So getting accepted by each and every one of them, it's very crucial, because when corporates or when management entrust you with some of the tasks, it should be get completed, and therein teamwork also plays a very important role. So until unless you are being open-heartedly accepted as a leader, your teamwork would not be in a place, and your teams, when your teams would not accept you as a leader, I'm sure that the consequences of this would be a disaster. So setting out the tone for today's lecture and the session, let us find some good answers in the chat box, wherein I can hear from you that whom you choose as a leader. Let's explore our personal life and identify that do we follow some kind of leaders? Do we admire their qualities? Do we have someone whom we look up to, so that at least okay, if he is doing this kind of a thing, at least I should also be one who will be taking the same approach in my life. Okay, so can we have some people coming out in the chat box, and let us hear out from them whom you admire as a leader. For me, I admire APJ Abdul Kalam as a leader. I admire Mahatma Gandhi as a leader. For you, it can be a different person. So let's hear out in the chat box. If you can please put in your leaders that whom you admire in your life. Uh, it would be great to hear out from you, and let us understand that why people follow those leaders, why people admire them, and what qualities they have. At least if we will replicate those qualities in our life, it's going to be wonderful. It's going to make us the good leaders tomorrow. And therein we'll be getting a lot of work from our team. We'll be helping out our team members, and then wherein your team will grow really strong, and then it would help you out, to produce a better results as a team. So can we hear out from some people whom you admire as a team? She can be your principal as well, because she has come up with such a wonderful drive, wherein uh, wherein she's thinking about every one of you. So let's hear out from you whom you admire as your leader in the chat box. Okay, so meanwhile we'll read the chat box meanwhile, but let us discuss more about leadership. Let me take you why I admire APJ Abdul Kalam and whom he admires as a leader. So let's hear out a small story, and let's go back to 1979, wherein I'm taking you to a small story and a small incident which really admired me, which I really admired, because it had those kind of approaches which we really take in our life. So going back to 1979, 17th of August, wherein Sir Kalam was the mission director, and the mission was to place a satellite in orbit. So on 17th August 1979, Mr. Satish Dhawan, who was the chairman of the space organization ISRO, and all these people were standing at the Vikram Sarabhai launch satellite launch center. Therein, when the task was given, this task was given to Sir Kalam in 1973. It took 6 handsome years to come up with a satellite which could be placed in the Earth's orbit, and this would really help to India to grow on a research level. So on 17th August 1979, when we were about to we were about to launch a satellite in the orbit, Sir Kalam was the mission director. He took the charge, and he really cannot check all the parameters that should be verified and should be checked before launching a satellite. So at T-T minutes, he hands over the command to the computer to launch the satellite. Then the moment they were about to launch the satellite, there was an alert from the machine saying that we are not going to go with the launch part. There is some leakage in part 2 of the satellite. But there is an option that if your computer is having some different opinion, you as a mission director, you can take over from that automated settings to a manual settings. So Sir Kalam was really in a bad situation, but he chose to be calm. He chose to take our experts views, and then they decided to launch the satellite because they thought that there are enough good conditions for them to launch the satellite. What happened basically? They took it to a manual process and then they launched it. As and when they were seeing the satellite cross this first path, when the satellite was in the second part of it, the satellite spin in the environment, which really meant that they were losing out on this project. And Sir Kalam was not exactly in peace, and he really felt bad about this part. And 30 minutes after this launch, Mr. Satish Dhawan came to his cabin and said that I'm going to have a session, I'm going to have a conference in next 30 minutes, and please join me there. And Sir Kalam was really worried about that. What he's going to say to the media, because the loss that the India faced out of this was 20 crores. You imagine in 1979, 20 crores directly into Bay of Bengal. And media was curious about the questions. Media was curious about to know what went wrong, who can be the person, who can be held responsible. And Sir Kalam was really in a bad situation. The moment they came for they came for the seminar, Surprisingly, Mr. Satish Dhawan took the charge, and he said that we have gained a lot of experience by our launch, and I promise that in next few years you will see us placing the satellite in the orbit. And this really came as a surprise to Sir Kalam, that when he was meant to come forward and be answerable, being a project director, being a mission director, Mr. Satish Dhawan took the charge, and he said that, okay, this went wrong on my part. Right after one exact year, in July 1980, again, Sir Kalam was the project director, and at this time they launched the satellite, and the launch was really successful at this point in time, and we could place in few minutes our satellites into Earth's orbit. So the story doesn't end here. The story doesn't end here. Just after 30 minutes of the launch, they were really happy. They celebrated the launch they had, and it was kind of a very happy environment. But the story doesn't end here. Right after 30 minutes of the launch, Mr. Satish Dhawan came to Sir Kalam's cabin and said that, Kalam, please go and organize the conference. You see a change. You see a leadership inside there, and wherein there was a failure. Mr. Satish Dhawan sir took it on him, and when there was a chance to be a part of the fame and to be on the screens of media news, he made Sir Kalam to be the face of the project. So don't you think that this defines that what approach should we have in our leadership stage? What kind of thinking we should have? What kind of approach we should have for our team members? And this really inspired me, and this really inspired Sir Kalam as well. Any speech that you hear out of Sir Kalam and from his his sessions, you will definitely find that he would try to come up and narrate this incident, because this is not something very usual. Because you'll see that people are coming forward, and people are every now and then there, to take the credits of the others' work. But this was something very exceptional which Sir Kalam faced in his life. So it's very important that when you are a leader, you should at least have this kind of approach that you think for your team members. You make their failures your failures, but their success you should definitely give them the credits for their success. So it's very important when you sit in a corporate, you should have those kind of a tendency in your brain that when it's a failure, when your team is facing those failures, you are at least there to handle them. You are there to make them calm. You are there to make them understand what went wrong, rather than cribbing over the facts, and rather than shouting on them. Because if you have that kind of approach, there would be instances of the second failure, there would be instances of the third failure, and there would be a time where people will not admire you as your leader. And that's very much important, because as we discussed in the first part of our session, in initial minutes of a session, that getting accepted as a leader is very much important. And getting accepted leaders as a leader is not just by your words, it should be by your actions. People should admire you that, yes, this is a person I need to follow. This is a person, his approach, his thinking is something that I would definitely inculcate in my life and in my approaches. And that would turn out you to be a good leader. Because if you don't have someone to look up to, we will end up nowhere. So it's very important that we set out, we set out the right set of leaders for us whom we can look up to into the morning, and we can look up to their ideologies, we can look up to their sentiments, and can definitely be, good leaders in our life as well. Again, I would say that leadership is not a positional, it's not an influence of your positional power. It should be an influence of your personal power. I'm very much sure that, some of you might be admiring Mr. Narendra Modi. What he is into is his personal power. He influences his personal power. But rather than if I talk about Congress right now, okay, you would find that people are having a positional power, but then they again don't have that kind of an influence, on the lives of the people, and that makes them not being accepted as a leader, being still in the position of a leader. So that's very much important that you should have a positional power. You should be accepted as a leader just because of your ideology, just because of your work. And see, if today I tag you as a leader, okay, you are the leader of this team, your approach will not suddenly change. It comes through your life. It You inculcate those habits throughout of your life. So it's very important that we understand that leadership is not about thinking just for ourselves. Leadership is thinking about for a team for each and every people as a team. You should think for betterment of your team. You should think for how you can actually bring in everyone and find, and you can set your company's goals to their individual goals, and then it would turn out to be definitely a better team wherein you'll be admired as a leader, and then you would follow, and you would really see a very happy environment. So that's very much important that your approach should be very much dedicated to others. That's how you turn out to be a good leaders. If you talk about the other sections that you have gone through, let's say be it a part of a GD. See, again, leadership is important. How can I correlate it with your GD part? Is that if you want to be a leader, it's not that something that you would always come as a negative points to others. You should not start disrespecting others' thoughts. You can always have your view of points. They will have their view of points. See, every coin has a two sides. It will be accepted, it will be rejected, depending upon the people's emotion. So in GD also, when you talk about a leadership quality, it is not just to degrade the thoughts of others. It is not about to degrade the content of others. It's about a beautiful way of putting out the thoughts and convincing other people that, okay, yes, this is the another angle which we can really look at to this topic. So when you talk about this GD as well, leadership is very important because the judges over there will really respect, will really give you marks on the basis of how you are respecting the community. They are going to give marks about how you are thinking of the others. See, I don't know whether this point was covered in GD as well. Let's say if there is one person, generally it is considered good that if one person is not able to speak out, you help him or her to come out with some of the points. You can directly point out to that person, like to hear out from you, what would be your views. And this really earns a brownie point in group discussion because you stand at that point in time. They really admire about your quality that if one person is not working in the team, let's say if one person is not able to grab up the opportunity, you give them the sufficient opportunity, wherein they can actually come up with the good thoughts and they can actually put their points forward. And that would be very well respected within the team. So I can relate it to every session that you have gone through. How leadership plays a very important role. Let's say if you are planning your careers as well. Okay, so how leadership plays an important. See, leadership is about a vision that you want to have in future. So if you plan your activities, if you plan your career, if you plan about the path that you want to follow in your professional career, that's kind of a leadership vision that you have for yourself. You are the leader for yourself, wherein you are thinking about yourself. You are having that vision where you want to be next 10 years. That's where leaders are accepted. See, Narendra Modi would definitely have a vision that what he wants in his manifesto, what he wants next 10 years down the line for India. Correct. We had books called Vision 2020 for India. Correct. So those are the thoughts which leaders take for themselves. So whenever you plan your career as well, if you have a good vision, if you have a good thought process, wherein you can actually identify your strengths, your weaknesses, you can identify opportunities, you can identify threats, you can identify your capabilities, and that's how if you shape up your career, you'll be in a actually better situation. You'll be actually in a better position. If you talk about this, the speaking session you had, the session wherein you were made to find the ways wherein you can definitely develop a good commands of language. Let's say if your leader comes today and speaks in a very abrupt language, okay, again, you would not accept him as a leader. You would not be willing to listen. See, if today any person comes and takes a mic and listen to it, uh, uh, he takes the charge of the session, and would you accept him if he's not having a good language? Let's say even if today I try to speak in Hindi, I try to speak in Marathi. Let's say if I come to a very vernacular language, which is a tone of myself, you'll not find it anywhere and everywhere. But will you accept me as a leader? Definitely, you will not accept me as a leader. You would definitely not listen to my thoughts. You will definitely not inculcate all the habits that I'm asking you. So it's very important that leadership plays a very important part, and we understand that how it can be a good leaders. Okay, if we break leadership into what kind of things that you should have. Let's say L stands for learning. I'll take you to a small incident wherein there are two woodcutters, and one of the woodcutters would work 10 hours a day, and would cut out on 3 days, 4 days. But there was a second woodcutter. He would take definitely a good rest for around 1 hour, and he used to go from the project site where they're working, and he used to come after 1 hour. But he was capable to cut 5 trees in a day. So the first woodcutter was really shocked about that. Oh man, that you work 1 hour less to me, but still, you are able to be more productive. What makes you productive in the day end? So he said that whenever I take a 1 hour break, I take 15 minutes break and I sharpen my X for next 5 minutes. So it's very important that you sharpen your skill. You should be in a continuous state of learning. See, leadership doesn't mean that you end your learning approaches. Leadership doesn't mean that, okay, after this, you need not to learn anything extra. Leadership is something that you should be very much willing to learn at each and every point in time. See, because uh, change is the only consistent thing that you'll face in your life. So being acceptable to change, being in a state that you will always be willing to learn new things in life would really make you a step ahead to your team, and that's how you can lead them, and that's how people will admire you. Let's say if today you come to me and ask me something about related to a chartered accountancy course, any new thing that has come up, and let's say if I'm not doing that particular thing, will that not create a bad impression of that? Why should we follow him? Why should we come to him and ask him few things when he himself is not aware of the things? So learning is a very important task, that if you are learned, then you'll be highly respected in your jobs. You'll be highly respected in your corporate works, because people would obviously look up to you and will always find a solutions that you can definitely give to them. So it's very important that you should be in the continuous learning state. And if you talk about uh, leadership, E in leadership, it's basically for enthusiasts. See, if you tomorrow go to your office and you find your team leader, sitting idle, or maybe is not having that kind of an enthusiasm, I'm sure that your team would also carry that same enthusiasm. They would also not be that productive. So you really be enthusiastic. You convey your positivity. If you're enthusiastic, you convey your positivity to your team. So it's very important that being a leader, you should be really enthusiastic about any project that is coming, be it any team member who is coming. Be enthusiastic about celebrating your failures. Be enthusiastic about identifying what went wrong in your failures. Be enthusiastic about celebrating your success. Yes, you heard right. That be enthusiastic about celebrating your failures, because it's very important as well. See, every time you cannot taste success. If you would find, I read a quote somewhere that a person is not afraid of facing other people who know 10,000 tricks. A person is always afraid of one person who has practiced one particular way of fighting back in 10,000 different who has practiced one particular way 10,000 times. So it's very important that you are very much active. You are very much enthusiastic about uh, uh, celebrating your failures, because it's very important that what do you gain out of failures? I say it's an experience that you gain out of failures. You cannot always taste success. You cannot, if you taste always success in your life, you'll not be in that state to analyze what can go wrong. You always know what should be done, but you never know what should not be done. So that's actually not good for your company as well, and that's not actually good for your teams as well. And the day, if you think only why what went wrong, and start celebrating failures. I'm definitely, I can definitely assure you that your team will be in that state to support you, because they know that you'll not be one of the critics. You'll be blaming them for the failures, but you'll be definitely the one person who will be supporting them for, uh, you know, whenever they face a failure. And that's very much important. See, no, it is generally said that when you are sad, perfect. When you are sad, you need someone to console you. But when you are happy, you are actually happy in your own. So it's very important that when your team faces that kind of an failure, it's very important to inculcate those positivity. So it's very important that don't create that kind of an environment that, okay, if you fail, you would be punished. You will not really get credited. Of course, there are going to be implications of it, but at least not make that kind of an environment which is depressing for each and everyone. So it's very important. Covering E and A part of it, let's talk about D, which is very much, it's a discipline. D stands for discipline. See, if you talk about the change, let's say if you're very much disciplined, okay, you are very particular about the formats that should be followed in your team. There should be a particular hierarchy that should be followed in your team. There should be a particular punctuality. There should be a defined set of rules which are being followed in your team. And I'm definitely assuring you that there will be good results in life. So discipline is very much important. It's actually important for your growth in life. It's actually important for you to grow as a person in community. You would definitely agree with me that these sessions which are there right now, the team must be working very hard for it. The team must be having a very disciplined approach in life, wherein they would be definitely planning these things from last 30 days. I would say last 2 months, last 6 months. They must be giving the very first thought that would have come into the mind of management people, that would have come into the mind of the leaders which are sitting and organizing this event for you, must be 6 months back. But they had to take a disciplined approach about how they would be reaching out to the speakers, how they would be reaching out to the people who can actually help you to grow and can come up with good insights on the topic. So your approach should be very much disciplined. If you have a defined set of rules which are to be followed, which if you have a approach that should be followed, I'm definitely, I can assure you that your team would be in that state that they would be very much disciplined in their approach. Even you would understand that in class nursery, in class first or second, we never had those kind of a disciplined thought in our mind. But today, when we come to colleges, when we take a part in any kind of an event, we take a disciplined approach. So it's very important that the decorum of the company should be maintained, the decorum of the team should be maintained, and that would definitely turn out to a good results. So be very keen on this aspect that you need a good discipline in your team, and that's how people will really admire you, because they know that you will not bear up anything which is not good for the team. So that's very much important. If you talk about the E part, it's about the explorer. Whenever your team comes and let's say if I come to my team leader and I say that, okay, let's try this approach, and if he comes with an answer that, okay, I don't want to come up with this approach, I have a defined set of rules to be followed, and I'm really not keen on exploring good options around, I would be discouraged definitely. I would not definitely want him, to be accepted as my leader. I will not definitely accept him as a leader, because see, what I meant about being explorer is that you should be keen on identifying what are various ways of getting one particular way work to be done. It's very important that you don't hold your hands when it comes to exploring your other options, which are also, it can be a cost effective manner. It can turn out to be a good positivity in the team. It can turn out to be a fruit to your team, because see, you would be bored of having the same format. You would be bored of following the same approach. But today, let's say if I come and I say you that okay, we are going to try this as well. Okay, this is a new thing that I found. Can we implement this particular thing in our approach? Don't you think that that would bring out a good excitement in the team? And let's say if your team comes up with the new approaches, okay, if you are ready to accept that, I'm definitely I can definitely say it from my experience that your team would definitely come out with two more new ways of doing particular things in the coming days. So it's very important that when you are open to suggestions, when you are open to try out new things, your team would also be thinking on that line. Because see, if I say this work has to be done in this manner, you'll do it because you're doing it and you're following one process. But if I ask you that, okay, we are open to suggestions as well, we are open to try out new things, I'm definitely sure that you would go home, you would try to find out two more ways to do a particular thing, and then you would come out with the suggestions, and that would be openly welcomed in the team, and this would create a kind of a positive environment. So it's very important that being as a leader, people should admire you because you are open to accept the new suggestions that you're taking from the team. So it's very important that, and in that way, what happens is basically your team, bonding strong. It strengthen up because you know that he'll not say directly no without giving it a thought. And let's say if person is also coming up with a suggestion and you give it a thought, okay, then you would come out with the new ways that what could go wrong, why we cannot follow this kind of an approach. So 10 different things which should not be done, or 10 different ways of doing one particular thing. So as a team, it would definitely create a very good environment in your team. So again, if you talk about R, it should be a reader. It's basically, see, reading is not just concerned about reading about the processes that you need to follow, reading about the subject matter wherein you are working. But reading is very much important. Reading is very much important because it gives you a strength to think. It gives you strength to imagine what people are saying. So yes, reading out your subject matter is also important, but reading a normal aspect, you can imagine what people are saying. You can imagine, you can actually hear out what writers want to say, and that develops your imagination. So whenever you talk about your approaches in corporates, you should definitely think 10 steps ahead what others are thinking, and that would definitely turn out to be fruitful for you because you actually thought what it can go. You actually thought where it can. You actually thought that what could go wrong. So it's very important that you should actually have that habit of reading, be it a newspapers or be it any kind of thing, because that's going to actually help you to develop that imagination power. So it's very important. The next part about S is that S stands for stable. See, it's very important that you should you should have a stable approach. You should be very keen on you should be subtle in your approach even when you are facing success, even when you are facing failures. See, I'll take you to one beautiful story. Perhaps we have two stories for this stability. What importance does it? See, let's say if you're going out for a job of 20,000 rupees, you would expect your interview to run for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Perfect. Let's say if you're going out for an interview of 20 lakhs per annum job, your interview might turn out to 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and this would go on and on. But let's say if I'm going to hire you, Sundar Pichai, CEO of Google, he's having a salary 136 crores per year. Can you imagine the time that it should take for people to interview? Uh, if that goes proportionally the way we have discussed earlier, it would turn out that his interview might run for three days, 4 days, because people are putting 136 crores on you for a year. So, have you ever imagined that what kind of an interviews this CEO, CFO, CXOs they go through? If we talk about proportional time, it might turn to 4 days, but you have to judge. Let's say if you're giving 140 crores in hand of some person, you're giving your company to some person, how would you judge him? So I read it somewhere that when CXOs, when CFOs and CEOs at the MD level, when the management people are hired, would you be surprised to know that their interview runs not more than 30 minutes? Because see, the people who would be interviewing them would not be also having a lot of time to spend a day with him, and neither the person who's getting interviewed would be having that much of time. So can someone think that what kind of questions they would be asked? You'll be surprised to know that the first and the foremost question that is being asked to the CXO people is that explain what kind of failure you have faced in your life, the biggest failure in your life, and how did you handle it? This is the one simple question that they have to answer. And do you understand that what interviewers are trying to identify here? One thing is that which failure do you recognize as the biggest failure in your life? See, we crib about small things. We crib about the small failures that we face from our team members. But what do you actually define as a failure in your life? What do you actually define as a biggest failure in your life? And how did you approach it? So that's very much important that you see if let's say your stock market goes down and the MD of the person suddenly gets out of his bed and then he hustle like what went wrong, and if he really doesn't come up with that approach, this would be disastrous for the company. So a person should be stable whenever he faces success, whenever he tastes success, whenever he faces failure. He should be having a very stable approach in his life. I'm not saying not to celebrate any of the instances, but at least he should have a stable approach. See, success should not be celebrated to a very great level, and the failure should be, repented upon for a great time. But you should have a stable approach that if something is going wrong, you should be calm enough in your approach, and that would and let's say if something went wrong to your classroom and you complain it to your teacher, and then suddenly she also get into that kind of a trauma and she brags about the thing that oh what wrong and what went wrong and all. But do you understand that at that instant she'll not be able to come up with solution for it, because there would be only one thing that would be running in her mind is that oh it went wrong. But her brain or his brain would never instruct him or her to identify solutions, to come up with solutions. So it's very important that when you face such kind of instances in your life, you should be stable in your approach. Like I'll take you to one more story. There was a king. He was having kind of 80 states under him, and one day one priest come to his kingdom and give him two chits and saying that since you have a very good command and people really follow you and people admire you, I give you this as to gift. Open one chit when you feel that you have everything, and open the second chit when you feel that you don't have anything in your life. So days passed by, and a priest went to his place, and but you know what? With time, he acquired two more states and 20 more states, and now he was a king of 100 states, and he felt that he had everything. And this reminds him of opening one of the chips that was given up by the priest. And the king opens it and says, and he felt devastated after it. Okay, he lost his control because the chit said that ये वक्त है गुजर जाए. Now it felt that I would lose out on this thing. There would be some days where I would turn 80 and then I would lose out my command. So he felt really bad about this thing, and this changed his behavior. He wanted to rule the most. He wanted to have a good command over the people, and you know what happened? He basically had a different approach toward leadership, and this made him lose all his kingdoms. And suddenly he had nothing in life. His kingdom was snatched with him because he he had a different leadership approach, and that was not really welcome by you. See, there are 10,000 people who are following you, but you are just one person. But still 10,000 people, you are having that influence on the 10,000 people. Don't you think their strength cumulatively can beat king? But the ideology that we with which he is setting, the strength with which he is setting, that's the reason that people are. But when that changed, people lost their minds, and and the very next moment, the king was living in a small hut uh, in the a forest, and surprisingly, the same priest was sitting near the river bank, and when he goes near to him, and he says that priest, I've lost everything in my life, and I'm really tense that how would I survive? Then the priest reminded him to open one of the second chits, one of the two chits that he gave him. And this, after reading that, he really felt confident that again he would get things back. And you would be surprised to know that the second slip that read out was "ये वक्त है गुजर जाएगा." It reminded him of that the situation that he is in, the situation that he is in, is temporary. So neither your current acquisitions are permanent, neither you are permanent. So be very stable in your approach whenever you want to target any kind of projects, whether you are facing any kind of a thing. Let's say COVID turns out, which no one of us really thought about, and it really changed the way we are working right now in corporate. And if we would have just bragged about the things that what went, how are we going to survive and all, we would have never come out with a solution. So it's very important that your approach should be really stable in your life, and that's the utmost important part in your life, and to be accepted as a leader. So please take care of that. And if you talk about the one more aspect of leadership, it's P stands for parenting. What do you mean by parenting? See, when you are a leader, the progress of your team members, the progress of each and every person working in your company is on. See, you are going to a person working for him. You are dependent for your career on him. So, you'll be surprised to know that one of the entrepreneurs came up with this thought that at, जब हम लोग कॉर्पोरेट में काम करते हैं ना, तो लोगों को लगता है हमारे पास बहुत रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज है, वी आर लॉट ऑफ, हम लोग उस स्टेट में है कि हमारे पास बहुत सारा काम है, मैनेजमेंट हमें बहुत सारा काम दे रहा है. बट व्हेन यू स्टैंड as an entrepreneur in the market, you are responsible for the bread and butter of the people that are working in your company. And that's the same position when you are working as a team leader. So it's see, leadership is a very beautiful skill, and I would relate it to parenting, because when you talk about parenting, see, it's about the care that you give to the team. It's about how do you think about your team members? So parenting is altogether being attached on an emotional level with your employees. See, I'm not. What I meant more about emotional part is that you really care for them. Whenever a person is going through any kind of a difficult situation in their life, and he's a part of your team, please have a discussion with him. Please try to console him. Please try to understand if at any point in time you can help him. Don't burden him with a lot of work. At least you take a bit of charge, because see, it's equivalent to parenting. Every person cannot face the same day, or have a good day in his life every day. There would be ups and downs, and that's how life is. So whenever you talk about leadership, it's equivalent to parenting, because you really think for your team before yourself. See, the very first incident which I mentioned you about Sir Kalam and his stories. What we take out of that is basically it was equivalent to parenting, because the people at the leadership stage definitely went into that stage where Sir Kalam was not in his right set of emotions. They came forward and they worked as a shield to him, and they made his failure as their failures, and that really helped him to grow as a seed, because there is a lot of water, there's a lot of manure which is required at the start of your career, and that can only happen if you have a good leader to be followed, and if you have a good leader. So rather than cribbing about the fact that you don't find a good leaders in your corporate world, it's very much important to be one of them, to be that kind of a person whose words are kind of golden words for others, whose vision is kind of admired at a great level in this society. Be that kind of a person that people would really like to work with you. People would really like to work in your team. It's very much important. So I'm very much sure that every one of you, after getting through this whole journey of what leadership is and how beautiful it is, and what all you need, it's not about just that someone would put a tag on you that okay, he is a leader, but definitely you should have this leadership approach in your life each and every day. This brings me to the second part of the session, that teamwork. Now we have talked about all of these things, that what leaders should do, what kind of approach that he should definitely have in his life, and what makes leaders actually a leaders. Let's come to the second part of it, that wherein we talk about more of the team. When you are a leader because you have a team. I hope you understand that part. So who makes you leader is your team. Who makes you come out with good results? It's your team. Who makes you turn your goals into actuals? This would be the people who will be working out their brain and heart. They'll be working out with day and night schedules just to come up with the deadlines, just to meet the deadlines that you're working with. So let's talk more about the aspect of the team. Why is it important? How you can definitely have a good environment within your team, so that at least people are really overwhelmed to work with you, and each and every one of you is in the team is working in the direction that which is showed by to them. Have you ever gone to orchestra? See, we really like to listen guitars. We really like to listen to jazz drum. But have you ever experienced an orchestra? There are people who love that, because when all the instruments are working together, it produces a very good sound. It produces the aura. So each and every leg each and every member of your team is very much important. So see, you cannot build goals, you cannot come up with results until unless your team is working for that. Because see, each person cannot dedicate 24 hours of his day. Definitely there are some set working hours, and it's very important that each and every one of us work each and every day, uh, so that we can fulfill our goals. So whenever you hear out the orchestra, it's every instrument that is contributing to that particular sound which is being admired by the people. And I hope you understand what I meant about orchestra is the team that you're working with, and they, when they would work out uh, collectively, it would help you to come out with the better results. So it's very important that we understand more about how should we approach to our team, so that at least we can come out with the best results. See, the important part is whenever you are going to any company, you're going with your own set of goals. Okay, like we discussed, that someone would want to have a Ferrari, someone would want to excel into their academics and their professional career. Some people would want to reach out to the CXO level. So it's very important that you align your goals, your company's goals to their goals, and that's how they will be working towards it. See, if I tell you today to buy a Ferrari, you need money, and for money that you need to work. But how long will it work for you? How long will it work for you want to motivate? It would work until he gains a lot of money and he's well equipped to buy Ferrari. So this is not kind of a motivation that I'm asking you to give to your employees. What kind of a motivation that I'm trying to give here or trying to put forward to you is that you actually help them to grow professionally, and you help them to know that how about working on this project, how about aligning it with your company's goal to achieve your personal goal. See, it's very important because आज अगर मैं आपको बोलूँगा कि हम लोगों को you have to come today and work, but how would it help you out? That's very much important, and that's the actual motivator for you. See, we don't take leaves in corporates because we know हम लोगों का salary कट जाएगा. So we know that what we have to not do and what can be the consequences of it. The same way, when you align your company's goal towards their goal, every morning when they'll be getting up from their bed, they would know that how they are working each and every day for their personal goals indirectly while working for the company, and that would definitely turn out to be a good motivator for your team each and every day. You would not really have to run with the sticks. You would not really have to keep a good track. What I meant about is to that micro management level, you do not have to never get to that level, because your team is working without putting in your efforts for every minute. Your team is working even if you go on an autopilot. Your team would work even if you take a day's leave. So that's how you should create an environment. And see, it's very important because when you work with different sets of people, they have a lot of different mindsets. So see, we know har jagah jhagde hote hain. We know ki people with different thoughts will have a different viewpoints, and they would definitely want their viewpoints to be respected to the team. And like if you have 20 members, you'll have a different 20 views in your team. But it's very important for you to understand each and every thought, respect each and every thought, and align that this turns out to be the best option if we take up from the 20 viewpoints. So that's your leadership skill. That's what we said. You should be convincing in your approach. That's very much important, because when you work with different sets of people, you need to respect each and everyone's thought. If you don't respect that, people will leave you, and that's going to turn out very I would say that would have a very pathetic consequences in it. So be very keen on of attaching each and every one to the company's team. See, if you can recall, हम लोग की notebooks पे ना बचपन में एक drawings होती थी, but वो drawing create करने के लिए we have to touch connect the dots, and हर dot पे एक number लिखा होता था, and that's how we go through a sequence, and in the end it would turn out to be a beautiful picture. So see, it's very important कि आप team के हर एक dot को जब आप connect करोगे ना, and if team collectively is working out, it would make a complete picture which you can admire at the end of the day. So it's very important that how you connect the dots, how you connect the goals of each and everyone's with the company, and that I'm very much confident about the fact that if that happens, if you in the leadership position are able to convince them, and if you are able to connect the dots in the right manner, it turn out to be a beautiful picture in the end. And that's very much important, because that's how you are considered as a leader. That's how people would admire you, because yes, he was in that he was in that position where he managed to keep all 20 thought points in one box, and and in the end they can actually also see the results, that yes, this was the best way we could do it, and that's how our leader thought of it, and that's how we approached it in our life. So it's very important that you know that you have that kind of approach in yourself, and people really admire you as a leader. The next point is that when any person is is doing something wrong, how do you approach that? Because see, if you tomorrow go to your mom and she scolds you, I'm see that आज की तारीख में बोला जाता है that parents should not scold their child, because you know they end up not you know not they end up hiding things from their parents, and that's the same thing that would happen in your team. Let's say if one person has done any kind of mistake, you first try to solve it and help the person to understand that what could be the better ways to do it. Because see, if today you scold him for any kind of a thing that he has done, in the end it would turn out that he would hide things from you. So you rely on them for their work. See, you cannot sit and check the work on a detailed basis for all your 20 members or X team members that you have. But it's very important about the confidence that it's very much important that you should be in that position. You should develop that kind of a confidence for your team, that they would come upfront and will tell you that this went wrong. See, just understand that, let's say if you are meant to develop one kind of a software, and one of your team members he experienced and he knows that there is some bug in the software, and let's say in past you might have scolded him for some of the work and all, and today he'll be in that position that he'll hide that particular thing from you. And whenever you go for a launch of that particular software, things would not work in the right way, because there was a team member who knew that there was a bug, but he didn't approach you because you were not that approachable person you know for him. So it's very important that you are approachable. It's very important that you have a very good way of reaching out to your team, because if that's not the case, no, you have to be responsible to the management what went wrong. You have to be responsible for the cost that was incurred on your project, and still they could not get the results. So if you have to be answerable, see, you have to create that kind of environment that you never end up getting into that difficult situation. And how that can be approached when you have a good support from your team. So it's very important that you should be approachable, and your team member, you should develop that kind of a environment in your team that okay, if there is anything, we are going to handle it together. If there is something which went wrong, please first try to find solutions for it. First try to find out that what actually went wrong, and then we can find a better way to convey to the person that what he should not do, or what their team should definitely take care of when uh, while being on the second. So I hope by now you must have got about. See, I didn't want to discuss more about what leaders do we have, and what they did, but this is something more about what habits that you should inculcate in yourself, so that at least you turn out to be a good leader. And you turn out, people can see that kind of a leadership quality in you, and that's very much important. Because see, if you see any kind of a business leader, or you talk about political leaders, you talk about be it any kind of a person who is ruling the YouTube, who is ruling the Instagram today, they have a particular vision. They know what kind of a content your team would like. They would know that what kind of a content would be admired by the Indian people. What kind of, if you talk about business leaders, see, if you talk about Mukesh Ambani, he had this kind of a vision which we all could not think of. He came up with zero cost plans for getting people acquired on Jio, get people used to Geo, and that kind of a vision he had. So it's very important that you carry out that vision in yourself, and you can actually look 10 steps ahead what people are thinking right now. And it cannot be developed in a day. It cannot be, all the experiences will not come at directly at one point in time. It is about this very small things which you experience in your life. And if you try to have that kind of approach in your life, you would definitely turn out to be a leader. See, just to end this conversation, I would say that, uh, sorry for the bad quote. Let's say, one day I'll tell you that, one person, it's about the approach. It's about what you direct to your mind. Okay. Let's say if today I offer you some kind of a junk food. Okay. One person would say, understand the approach both people have. And it's about the mindset with which you are standing right now. Okay. So let's say if I offer, there are two sets of people and both of them are trying to, get away with this habits of junk food. So I offer junk food to one of the person and he says that, I'm trying to get away with this habit of junk food. And at the same point in time, I come to the second person and he offers him a junk food and he says that I am no more eating junk food. Don't you think the more convincing sentence coming out from the second person gives an idea about the firmness, gives the idea about what kind of instructions he is giving to his mind? See, let's say if you are saying that I'm trying hard to leave this habit of or to get away with the habit of eating junk food, there would be an instance in his mind which would come up and say that, hey, please, it's a, today you can have it and tomorrow you might not have it. And, you are still trying, you are not in that position. Okay. Uh, the results that would come out in the second person's statement is that he is more firm about his decision. It is about the way he's instructing his mind. So what we understand out of this story is not that we should get away with this junk foods, but definitely what we learn out of this story is that you need to instruct your mind, and that's how leaders do. Whenever you face any kind of a situation, do think that don't say that you are a good leader. Don't say that you are trying to be a good leader. Say to yourself that you are a good leader. And what would ideal leaders would do in this particular situation? And that's wherein your brain would instruct you that, okay, go with this kind of approach. So it's very important, until unless you get in your brain that you want to be a good leader, you would never come up with this approach in your life. Because see, it's not easy for us to keep others ahead of us in our decision. We can never think about others before we would really think about ourselves first. But what leaders do is they have a vision, they have they have approachable approachable attitude. They have a habit of thinking about others, and they can actually identify who is the right person and who is the wrong person. And if you instruct your mind that you are a good leader or you want to be a good leader, your mind would definitely work in that manner. So it's very important that you put in your thoughts that yes, these are the elements for good leaders. These are the elements of working in a team, in a good team, and do respect others' thoughts. Whatever you work as a team member is the same thing that you'll be working as a team leader. And in both of them, there is going to be a healthy working environment for you. So please do take care of all of these things in life. And I'm sure that each and every one of you who is giving their time today in the afternoon where we are meant to, sleep, you are giving time for your career. You are giving the time to be a great leaders tomorrow. And that's how is going to be, shape up your career. So be very keen on having this all approaches in your life. If any kind of a thing you follow in your life, I'm sure that you will turn out to be a good leader. Try to be a part of a team. Try to respect others' thoughts. Try to put in collectively team's efforts, because see, if when you want to connect the dots, if you skip on any of the dots, it will not turn out to be a beautiful picture in your life. So please work as a team member. Please respect each and everyone's thought. Have that kind of an attitude. Have that kind of an mindset of the leaders, and that would definitely turn out to be beneficial for you. And please do follow any of the leaders that you really admire. Read about them, what kind of failures they have faced in their life. Because see, I generally say that what is common in success stories is not the success, it's the failure. So it's very important to understand what background your leaders come from. It's very important to understand that what approach, where they went out of the box, so that they are standing as a leader today, and they'll be leaders tomorrow. They'll have their legacy. It's not that their approach is being admired today. Their approach will be admired going forward. Sir, Atal Bihari Vajpayee is really admired today as well, about the love he had for his country, about the approaches, about the hard decisions that he took in his life. And so try to develop this leadership, not having an impact today, but you live your legacy. Whenever death is also part of life. So whenever you go out of this world, your legacy stands here, and your legacy should stand in terms of the leadership quality and the leadership approaches that you have in your life. People should admire you even when you move out of corporate. That yes, we had this kind of leader in our life, and we would definitely would want to follow his approaches, his thoughts, his mindsets. So that's becoming eternal, and that's living for infinity. So thank you so much for joining in, guys. Thank you, Vedanta, for giving me this opportunity. I would love to answer your questions if anyone of you is having. Please feel free to put it in the chat box. We can have a good chit chat time, and I can definitely think a lot through about each topic. But due to time constraints, I even have to stop it. Uh, Over to you, guys. Thank you so much. This is what I had for all class. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, guys, anyone have any question can write in the chat box. Thank you so much for such a wonderful session, sir. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, thank you, Nisha.
Thank you, sir. We are grateful for your words of encouragement. Now, I would like to invite Sanjay Yadav from Student Support Department to deliver vote of thanks.
Hello, sir. A very good evening to all. It's given me immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks for this session to all the dignitaries assembled here on behalf of placement assistant team. I would like to express my gratitude to the extreme delegates of the webinar for their contribution to make the sixth day, it means last day of the session, college to corporate, a great success for us. Thank you so much. I would like to thank our today's session speaker, Mr. Devesh Airen, sir, who honored this session of leadership and teamwork with his amazing tricks and ideas and way to work in corporate world, who tell us the detailed information about leadership qualities and teamwork. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable time and valuable information. I would like to thank our beloved principal ma'am, Dr. Sangeeta Kohli, for supporting us through this entire webinar for 6 days and giving us a platform to organize this webinar. I would like to thank to our today's host, Nisha Raut, Vice President of Marketing Department from Placement Assistant Department. I would like to also thank to our Training Placement Officer of Placement Assistant team. I extend my gratitude to Executive Body Placement Assistant team to organize this webinar in this pandemic situation. Thank you so much, entire team. I would like to thanks to entire team of PAT for making this webinar successfully. Last but not the least, our beloved student of Vedanta College to make this section successfully. Thank you so much, guys, for your valuable time. And please fill up the form which is given in the description, which is given in the live chat, so you can get a certificate and we can consider your attendance too. For more training session, workshop, and webinars, stay connected with us through our social media handles. You can also visit to our Telegram account, Pat Vedanta, and also LinkedIn account, Placement Assistant Team. And if you have any queries, then you can visit our www.patvedanta.organization. Thank you so much, guys. Hope that this section was useful to all the students and we were out there. We assume that this would really help you to all for your college to corporate journey. Thank you so much, guys, for your time and consideration. Hope to see you all again in next webinar. Be safe, everyone, and have a great day ahead. Once again, thank you so much to all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sandhya. Thank you, Sandhya. Thank you, guys.